Good morning, everybody. The quote is, "You are the sky.
Mm.
Everything else is just the weather." And that is by Pena Chodron. Now, it has some accents above the O, so I am not entirely sure that I nailed that. And we were kind of just chuckling before we got on here because Tamara's like, "You're going to do it. You're going to nail it." I'm like, it's either that or I'm going to butcher it severely. So it's one or the other. Um,
We'll call it
but
a win.
yeah, we were just thinking about mindfulness this morning, and what that looks like for ourselves, for our bodies, for everything around us, for like, I don't know, I even think about um, like keeping my yard clean, or like picking garbage up a lot. Like, I'm thinking about everything when I think about mindfulness. I think about taking care of what we have, including like
Mm.
ourselves, as well as everything around us, and being kind to everyone around us.
Yeah,
And you've
I love
explained,
that.
you know, I don't know, we've been talking about, I mean, we always jump on and talk about stuff before we actually jump on here, because it just kind of feels like it opens up the flow for us.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, if you want to jump
So
into Mara.
I was just thinking in terms of like being mindful of like things. So if any of you follow me on social media, I posted a picture of my new like updated workout space. And I walked by it this morning and I was like, I love this space so much. Like I have everything just like set up how I like it and it feels good and I have my journal here and I have okay, maybe this is funny, like these really cute little baby Yodas. And like my rocks and my just all of my things that I love. And I actually like slow down when I walk by it and I'm like, I just love this space. And so when we become mindful of the things around us, the people around us, the conversations that we're having, the thoughts that we're having, the food that we're putting into our body, how we're taking care of our body, it's really just about like slowing down and becoming aware of all of those things.
Hmm. Yeah, I so right now my house is like incredibly small. We just bought this property last May, and we've got a lot of work to do. We have to get a new septic tank in, and we have like a little cabin on the property, and the house is very small. It's 640 square feet. So my workout space looks like very different than what I've ever had to work in, but I still make it work. I still make it work to move my body, because if I can, I must, is something
Yes.
that I always kind of think about. And I mean, mind you, that doesn't serve me all the time. And sometimes I'm just like, nah, it's not happening. Um, and that's okay, because we go through different areas of our life where we have maybe growth that's necessary. Well, growth is always necessary, but yeah, so there's a lot of change that's happening, and I think that um, just being mindful of where I'm at and where I'm going, because it helps me think about not just now, but going forward, which is really, I mean, it's really important. I'm not saying that you should just focus on the future, because I don't think that that is like, a lot of great people, Eckhart Tolle especially comes to mind, where he's like, be present in this moment, because
Mm-hmm.
then you really get saturated with what's happening, and you will just sit, and you just let out a deep sigh, Tamara, just like
I did.
sitting in the moment of where you're at, because there's nothing more like, you ground easier when you're just present to what's happening right now. There's nothing to be stressed out. I'm looking out the window. We're doing the podcast. There's nothing for me to be stressed out in this moment about. So being
Mm-hmm.
mindful of where I'm at right now. I have big dreams for this property, big plans. And I guess I could start thinking about, oh man, like there's so much to do. And there is. And I will find a time for those things. But I don't
Yeah.
focus on them. I just think about, this is what I want, and it's going to happen. It's not about the how, right? So that's where I focus my mindfulness practice, is like going into that spot of focusing on my present, on the gratitude that I have right now for the things that I have, so that I can have these amazing things down the road.
I was just feeling that when I let out that sigh. It's like the emotions that you have that don't have words.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reading that book together in book club and just feeling that, and him saying, like, if you focus on now and now and now and now, what do you have to worry about? If you're sitting and you're focusing on lack and you're focusing on bills and you're focusing on this big, huge, long to-do list and you're creating stress and calling more stress into your life, or if you can just be here and be like, this coffee tastes so good, and just feel it and think of nothing else. If we can move from moment to moment, and no, it's not easy, and no, it's not all rainbow and sunshine all the time, but the more you practice that awareness, the more you practice that mindfulness, you can actually take yourself out of the equation of everything else going on and sit in that moment and literally feel it and not worry about anything else. And the quote that Deb shared, you were the sky, everything else is just the weather. We are talking about like what that looks like. So if I am so caught up in the chaos of the world, and I'm so caught up in all of the to-dos in life, and I'm so caught up in the opinions of everybody else, what does that do for me? That absolutely does nothing and doesn't serve me. Mm-hmm. But if I just remain the sky, present where I'm at, and I don't worry about all of those things. So I love analogies. I don't worry about the weather, all of the chaos, the worldly things, the whatever, the opinions of other people. I just get to be me, and I get to be mindful. I get to choose my thoughts, and I get to perceive them the very best way that serves me, and just be in that moment. And it feels so, so much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like, well, when I read the quote to Tamara this morning, we both just like, it was like a deep sigh. Like we just both felt it so much because, yeah, if you are the sky, you are everything above the weather. It doesn't affect you. You're aware of it. You're aware what's going on below you, but you don't have to tap into it. And I think that and I just want to touch on this really briefly. And I know we kind of talked about it and you're like, oh, I'm kind of done with the whole COVID thing. And like we had someone suggest a topic, and that was how do we feel about how the world is changing? And I'm just going to correlate the two things right now, because we both do just feel done. And I'm sure many people do. Like it was an exhausting year last year. There was a lot of things happening. And I'm really grateful to be here and be doing all the things that I'm doing now. And we were feeding ourselves through our podcast and just being uplifting in our book club and everything else that was going on. And I'm really grateful for those things. I say every time I get on, I almost get like emotional in our book club and start crying because I feel so grateful for the people I have in my life. We're so focused on the positive. We're so focused on like what our goals are and lifting each other up, supporting each other as women. But what I'm thinking is that just to touch on that very briefly, like what do we think about the world and how the world is changing, is it's really easy to get caught up in the things that are happening. You could literally sit there and watch the news all day and be like, but this, but this, but this, but this. I don't do that. And you can call me whatever you want. You can call me ignorant. You can call me naive. You can call me whatever you want. That's fine. That's your opinion of me, and that's okay. Because as I can love you as a person, but your opinion of me is just your opinion. It doesn't actually need to mean anything other than that's just your perception of where I'm at right now. So I've come to define that instead of being a people pleaser and saying, oh yes, like I need to care what this person thinks. No, we are all living our own life. We're all allowed to grow. We're all allowed to change. We're allowed to have different opinions of different things. And where Tamara and I are at right now with how the world has changed, we just don't think about it that much. We keep thinking about what we've been thinking about, which is the things that make us feel good. So if watching the news or hearing about it, or if someone starts talking to me about what's going on and it's super negative, whether it's about COVID or whether it's about something else, guess what? I don't have to listen to what that person is saying. If myself is saying, this doesn't feel good, this doesn't feel right, I'm allowed to just change the subject. I'm allowed, and I think we get stuck in that. I mean, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that or if you're feeling that, because I wasn't really going to bring it up, but it just popped into my head and I decided to go with it.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you
I
want to touch on
actually,
that further.
yeah, I actually think it's important that you brought it up. Because obviously I was like, no, resistance. I was like, yeah, we're actually going to talk about this. But yeah, we had this conversation about like the world is ever changing and ebbing and flowing. We don't know what's coming. We are not in control. And that goes to the saying I'm sure everybody has heard a bazillion times: control the controllable and let the rest of it go. So we just choose into the things that make us feel good, that make us feel happy. We're aware, we understand what's going on, but we don't let that become who we are. We just keep showing up with the things that make us happy and showing up with the things that we're grateful for and living our life every single day the very best that we can without allowing that to pull us down, because there is a lot of negativity around it and that's just not for us. And that is because we have practiced over time being mindful and we've recognized the things that make us feel really good and the things that don't make us feel really good. And it's so important to recognize that you, as Devin was saying, are allowed to be like, you know what, this doesn't make me feel good. This doesn't serve me. It's like sitting and gossiping about somebody. If that does not make you feel good and you are not a gossiper and that is not something that you do, why would you engage in that?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
would just move yourself because it doesn't serve you. And that's where we're at. And it's that same thing Dev said, like, if that's not how you're feeling, maybe you sitting down and you listening to what's going on in the world and having an understanding of it makes you feel good. That is okay. We're not here to judge that, but it doesn't make us feel good. So we just choose to remove ourselves and fill that time with something else that fills us up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it really it goes for everything. I mean, I've been going through a lot of experiences lately within relationships, mostly moving through them where I had been a certain way in the past, and I know we've talked about this with you too, where you're people pleasing, you're listening, but you're not really listening. Like I would, I would say that I would just like almost tune out on a lot of things that some people say because I just don't care. But instead of saying, hey, let's talk about this and coming up with something else, I would just allow it. And it's still in my space. It's still in my vibration or my like energy area where I'm still being affected by it, because the reality is like the brain absorbs, right? Everything. That's
Mm-hmm.
why like when you go to sleep and you like play a meditation that's or like mantras or affirmations,
Yeah.
you're going like you're in a theta state,
Yeah.
but your
Yeah.
brain is still taking it in.
That's
So
right.
even if you feel like, well, I wasn't really listening, so it did. It still
Yeah.
played a part
Yeah.
in your area, in your space. And so I'm getting really a lot better at creating like a space like where I call it ignorance, call it like you said, I'm aware of what's being said, but I just don't care
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I'm thinking about all the things that I'm building over here. And when someone comes into my space, this just happened like maybe a month ago, someone came into my space and they were talking about something that had happened in the valley here, a murder that had happened, and they're like, did you hear about this? Do you want to read about it? Do you want to do that? And I was like, I haven't even thought about it. So when that person left my house, like I ended up just saging my whole house because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the energy that was being produced from that. And it was like, what is this serving? Like, it's a question I ask my kids. Is it necessary? Is it kind? Is it helpful?
Mhm.
is talking about something that happened that was like clearly like not, there was not good intentions, there was not good energy around, you know, a murder. Was any of those things involved when this person was telling me that? Was it kind? Was it helpful? Was it necessary? The answer is
Mhm.
no to all of those things.
Yeah.
And I mean, it played out the way it played out, and that person left the house, and I just saged my house, and I didn't really engage, but I didn't say like, nah, I don't want to listen. I let this person say what they needed to say because clearly like they were fixated on it. And even then, like maybe I could have just been like, you know what, I don't want to talk about that,
Mhm.
you know, and creating that
And
boundary.
yeah, one thing that I've really noticed and recognized, I know there's so many people that are like, oh, like energy, are you are you crazy? That isn't a thing. But it is. And that's just like where I'm at and what my belief is, and yours is yours. But I have recognized what it feels like to have good energy in my home and what it feels like to have negative energy in my home. I will choose good energy in my home any day. So, this is my home. If you come into my home and you bring something in I'm not okay with, I am allowed to say, no, thank you. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to talk about that. I don't want to engage in that. Like, this is my sanctuary. This is my home. This is where my family grows and where my kids are. And I don't want to have any of that in here. So I get to say, that's not welcome here.
Mm-hmm.
And how that person takes it is on them. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just protecting my peace and protecting my family and protecting my energy. And that is 100% okay and essential.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's all part of the mindful practice because you're listening to yourself and to what you need. And I feel like
Mm.
and we'll be wrapping this up pretty shortly here, but I feel like this is just one more necessary thing to touch on because we've both been extreme people pleasers. And I think that in society, we are created, like a lot of kids are created to be people pleasers, to please our parents, to please the teachers, to please our grandparents, whatever it is, our friends,
Mm.
you know, and it's just so habitually ingrained into our system that when you actually step into being mindful about what's serving you, it ends up feeling a little bit foreign at first. And you're like, oh, I don't want to hurt that person. Guess what? I don't have to listen about this person's problem about something that they've been dealing with for 5 years and they have not decided to change. They're staying in the same place and they just want a place to vent. I don't have to listen to that. That is my choice. And I think that we feel so borderline on that. We're like, well, a good friend would say, you know what, let's talk about something else. A
Yeah.
good
Or
friend
what
is
can I
going to
do
feed
to
the energy.
help you?
Yeah. Well, and you know
Yeah.
what? You can't help everybody. People have to want to
That's,
help
yeah,
themselves.
absolutely. But
So,
if that person is willing, like,
oh,
hey, this is my situation, this is where I'm at, can we talk about it? Like, I really want to get over this. And right, like, there's growth in that.
mm-hmm.
So there's that choice of like, absolutely. But when it's just this dead end circle, if it makes you, intuition is everything.
Mm-hmm.
If it makes you feel uncomfortable, if it makes you feel that instant, I don't like this, that's okay.
Yeah.
Follow that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
not going to serve you and you're just going to eat up your time and energy listening to something that is not serving you. So just let it go. And you don't have to be mean or anything, but be mindful. And I think that's what we're trying to get. You know, we're using these different examples and stuff, but we're trying to get to the point is that you just need to one, listen to your intuition, and that will create the mindfulness that is
Mhm.
necessary for growth.
Yeah,
If you want to lead us out, Tamara.
I do. Um, I think this quote maybe doesn't necessarily feel mindful, but it is because mindfulness starts within, and just allowing yourself just love and forgiveness and acceptance of who you are. So our affirmation for today is I love myself, I accept myself, I forgive myself.
It's beautiful.